Hey everyone, welcome back again to yet another video on React. So today we'll be discussing about a hook known as the useRef hook. We have already discussed about the callback and memo, and this is going to be the third kind of hook, that is the useRef hook. So useRef hook is that hook which can be used to manipulate your DOM from your React application only. Yes, so useRef hook gives you these particular benefits that you can use it and you can directly talk to your DOM and you can manipulate stuff over there. Right? We'll see how to do that. Right? But first, let's focus on this particular example. So, what is this example? A very basic example. Right? There is a state of name and set name, and what I'm doing is I've just taken an input field. Right? So you can just go over here and you can write your name, and this name will be set to that particular name, whatever you're writing, right? So if I go over here, very basic components, very basic elements you can see. So if I write Steve over here, so this is getting set over here, and then I have this clear button, right? I have this clear button which will call this function clear, which will just clear everything, right? Which will set the name to an empty string. So if I go over here, if I click on this clear, this is empty like that. I've taken this particular example, right? But now notice one thing. If I write some name over here, right? So you see this yellow colored focus on my input field, right? Yellow colored border appears over here. So that it says that okay, right now this element is in focus. Your input element is in focus. If I move to this particular button and if I click on this button, you see there is a focus shift. There is a focus shift. So now this input field was in focus, but as soon as I click on this button, my focus comes to this clear button. But what if I do not want to do this? What if I do not want this to happen? I do not want my focus to shift from this input field. I want my focus to be here only, regardless of if I'm clearing this up. Right? I want my focus to be here only. I do not want it to shift. How can I do that? Right? That's one question. Right? We'll solve this. But first, let's basically explore this useRef hook. Right? We'll be solving this issue. We'll be implementing this with using the useRef hook only. But first, we need to understand that what is actually this useRef hook and what does it returns. Right? So first thing that we need to see is what does that useRef hook return? What does it return? Right? Let's check this out. So if I go over here and I'll just write const ref element. Right, I'm calling this as ref element, and over here I'll just use my useRef hook, just like that, right? And I just want to show you what does it returns first. So if I go over here and if I do a console.log of ref element, let's check this out. So if I just go into my console right now, if I refresh everything, okay, so this is my app component, this is my ref element, useRef is not imported, that's why it's not running. I'll just import useRef, right, like that, and let's just check this out now. So I'll just go to my console and let's go over here and let me just refresh everything. So right now you see something is coming up over here as an object, and inside that we have a property known as current, and this is right now undefined because we haven't passed anything inside it. If I pass an empty string inside it, now let's see what will happen. Now this current will change to an empty string, right? So basically we are setting up a reference over here. We can set up a reference over here, right? So what I was talking about is that if I want my focus to stay in this particular place, right? So what can I do? I can use this particular input field as my point of reference, right? And how can I use that? There is a ref attribute. Right, there is a ref attribute, and to this ref attribute I can just set my ref element, just like that, right? So for this ref element, for this ref attribute, I have set my ref element, and now let's check what is my ref element. If I refresh this and if I basically write something over here, you see this is now my input element. Right, so this is now my input element, right? And by using this particular reference, what I can do, I can actually make DOM properties work over here. I can actually make DOM properties work over here, right? So let me show you how can you do that. So if I just do something like this, right, that I say that whenever this clear happens, I want the focus to be present at my current object. I want my focus to be present over here, right? So you can clearly see HTML or SVG element, whatever there is written, but this focus method is actually a DOM method, right? So over here you can see what I'm saying is that get the reference element and get to the current property and set the focus over there, right? So what is the reference element? This is the reference element right now. It will go to its current property, that is basically this current object, right? And what is inside this current right now? Input. So the focus will always be present on my input, right? Because whenever I run this function, the focus will be automatically shifted to my reference element. And my reference element right now is the input field, right? So let's check this out. So if I refresh everything, and let me just show this to you, right? So if I go over here, completely my focus is over here, but let me just write any other string, and even if I go to this button and I clear this, you see my focus automatically shifts to the reference element, right? Let me show this to you again. If I do mark and I clear this, you see for a millisecond the focus came into this, but because that function invoked, because that function took the focus and set it again to my input field, the focus was shifted again, right? You can do more things over here. Let me just show something to you, right? So what I will do is I'll just change the color, right? I'll just change the color for my text, whatever I'm writing over here, right? So let me do that. So what I will do is I'll just go back to my code. Then over here, as I have written this clear function, I'll write a function and I'll just call this change color. Change color, right? And let it be an arrow function. So like that, right? And inside this, I'll just maintain one state, right? Or okay, this will not require a state either. So we can just use the reference element directly, right? But we'll require a button to invoke this function. So I'll create one more button, and this time this button will call this as change color. Okay, and this particular button will just change the color like that, right? And inside this change color, we can just define this. So what I want to do over here is I want my reference element. I want to take my reference element. What is the reference element? The input field. And I want to take the current property. So basically reference current is my input. Reference element is that particular object. And inside that we have the current property which holds our input element. Yes, exactly. And after that I would just want to change the style dot color to, let's say, red, right? What is this style dot color? Again, DOM properties, right? So over here if I go and if I've written this Steve, I'll just write Mark or any name you can write, and I'll just click on this change color and you see Mark is now in red color, right? Similarly I can go over here and I can write anything now, and this particular text will now be in red color because I have changed my color, right? Like that. If I refresh, this will again be white color. If I click on change color, the color will be changed, right? So this is how basically you can make use of the useRef hook. So useRef hook will give you access to all the DOM properties, and it gives you one extra thing, that is that object of that current property, right? So whatever element you set as your reference will be treated as your current, right? And you can basically take this reference element, you can pass down in this reference attribute, and then you can use all your DOM properties like this, right? So this is the benefit of using the useRef hook, right? So you can get more examples over the internet. Feel free to go and research about all of these things, and you'll be amazed how beautiful React is, right? Alright, I'll see you again on the next video.